Evening, my name is Kelly Carroll, and I have the honor of chairing Bennington's Community Policing Advisory Review Board. Today is July 20th, 2023. It is 6 p.m. We are in the third floor multi-purpose room in the Bennington Firehouse on River Street in Bennington. Jeff,
Good.
Can you read
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, I want to introduce the rest of my board members. It's been 2 months, so we'll start down.
Jeff Vickers.
Will Greer. Oh, that's loud.
Robert Ebert.
We also have our select board liaison, Tom Haley, and Jim Byers on CAT TV with us, so thank you. Jeff, can you read the vision statement, please?
Yep. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, and resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you. The agenda and the previous meeting minutes were sent out ahead of time. They are posted on the website. Can I please get a motion to approve the agenda and minutes?
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So passed. Next is board reorganization, and I'm going to turn the floor over. I need a nomination for vice chair, please.
I'll nominate Will.
Can I get a second? Will?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Will is the vice chair going into the next year, and I will now turn the meeting over to Will.
Okay. So next is to approve a chair. So do I hear any, I'm assuming a motion. Would anyone?
I would nominate
You nominate.
Kelly for another term.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Second. Okay.
I'll third it.
Robert nominated Kelly. Okay. So with that, now we can hold a vote. Yep. Okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? With that, Kelly, you're chair. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Next is the election for secretary. Do we have any nominations for secretary?
Considering that I'm writing the minutes,
I nominate Will.
okay.
We have a nomination for Will. Does anyone second?
Oh, I'll second that.
Will? All right, so all those in favor of Will for secretary, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay, no, I'm kidding. No. I'll take that from the record. No.
Abstentions? Okay, so passed. Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody from the public that is signed up to speak? Tortoise, if you could just go up to the microphone and state your name and town, please.
Okay, Tortoise Isselhart, Bennington. It may get addressed when you get to the regular meeting, but it wasn't clear to me from the agenda. I had heard or read somewhere that you were going to cover an action plan today, but in the agenda it only said recap, so I don't know whether that will include an agenda plan, an action plan.
I believe we will do a recap, and I hope to have an action plan, but that's going to be dependent on what the board comes up with as a group, which is why I only put the recap on it.
No, I raised it. As I say, I don't know if I heard it or if I read it, and if so, where. I tried to find my source.
We said that during the listening session, that we would try to come up with an action plan.
Okay, yep, no, I was there, that I heard it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Do we have any other public comments? Okay. Next on our agenda from the Outreach Committee, Robert, did you want to introduce our guest?
Sure. We're happy today to have Letha Cipriano, the Executive Director of the Center for Restorative Justice. She is the second guest we've had so far. We've got a few more lined up going into November, so that'll be interesting. Sure. So she's passing out some handouts, and now she's going to talk to us.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. My name is Letha Cipriano, and I applaud you for getting it pronounced correctly, Robert, so thank you very much. It's a tough name. People usually have a difficult time with my name, so thank you. Let's see. So I am the executive director at Center for Restorative Justice. We fondly call ourselves CRJ, is our what we go by. I'm actually here with my esteemed board member, Mary Morrissey, who I've been with the agency for 18 years, and I don't want to age you, Mary, but I want to say 30 years, maybe. She's been on for... Right, so she has been with us for a long time. So she learned I was coming tonight, and so I'm really pleased to have Mary join us as well. So what I passed out, just to make it really simple, is just a quick snapshot. It's a picture of the continuum of services offered at Center for Restorative Justice. It could take me an hour just to go through every single program that we run. In a nutshell, we serve over 1,600 individuals through Bennington County each year. We have grown, in my 18 years, we started as a small court diversion agency serving juveniles and adults, and we are now the leader in the state to being the one-stop community justice center, serving children in schools through truancy issues and behavioral issues in school, all the way through reentry, folks coming out of incarceration back into the community. We are a nonprofit, so we do get our funding from state grants and private donations and private grants. We have three main grant sources. It's the Department of Corrections, the Department of Children and Families, and the Attorney General's Office. Those are our three main grants, but we get grants from the Vermont Community Foundation. We have contracts with the schools. We get private grants as well. So our total budget is close to almost $800,000. Wow. There's about 11 of us staff, 9 board members. And you can see through the continuum, we have school-based services. We have court diversion. This is probably what everybody's most familiar with. These are the programs that if the state's attorney agrees with the charges, that maybe diversion would be a good suit for this individual, they could go through court diversion, and they complete that program, and those charges are dismissed. We handle all the underage drinking violations in the county. We work closely with the Bennington Police Department, which is, I know why we're here tonight. Pre-charge programming, I'm going to come back and circle back around to that one. We get DCF funding, so we work with the most at-risk youth in the community. These are kiddos that have been screened to be at severely high risk of either continuing on in the justice system or having significant issues. So we get involved with them through mentoring. We run an after-school program, a summer school program. We have a shop called Threads. It's a clothing boutique run by teens, and it's for teens. And it is donations of quality clothes, shoes, accessories. Kiddos can come in, grab whatever they need, and it was really started because we found kids just needed a little bit extra support. They were skipping school simply because they didn't have clothes they felt good about wearing. So we thought, well, that's an easy solution. Let's just start providing clothes for kids. So this has really blossomed into a full-fledged boutique right on Main Street. Pretrial services is another program that we're involved with, where we're helping screen folks through the court system so that we can provide good information to the courts and the state's attorney to help decide, what would be a good avenue for folks, whether it's getting them involved in treatment. That's a big focus of ours. I skipped over the Tamarack program, treatment diversion. The focus of that is to really help folks get connected with treatment, because the underlying issue we're finding is this is a revolving door. They're coming in and in and in the system. So let's connect them. If substance use is the issue, let's get them connected with services, and we provide case management for that as well. And then, like I mentioned, with the Department of Corrections, we do post-adjudication work, we do reparative work, we help expungement, we provide expungement assistance, we'll file petitions for folks at no cost, people to try to get their records cleaned up so they can move on with their lives and get jobs and become part of the community. And then reentry. These are individuals that are coming back to Bennington. They're coming to live back in their community. So we provide that extra support. We run things called COSAs, which is Circle of Support and Accountability, which means there's a group of volunteers who commit to meeting for a minimum of once a week for a year with that person to become that new circle of support. Because we all know if a person comes back into the community and re-engage the same group of people that they were with when they become incarcerated, the likelihood of reoffending is great. So we provide a new circle of support for that individual. Reentry navigation, we connect folks with housing and services in the community, counseling, help them get jobs. And we do another program called Risk Reduction Program. We work with probation and parole, and we do education programming for folks to help them gain the skills they need in order to be successfully reintegrated in the community. So, quick little blurb about what we do. I think we're one of Bennington's best kept secrets. A lot of people don't know about us until the day comes where they or a family member or somebody they know may get a violation of some sort. DLS, oh, that's a big one. We do a ton of DLS work. Vermont has an incredible problem with folks driving with suspended licenses. So we work with the DMV to get people driving back legally on the road. A lot of people don't even realize that they can get their license reinstated even if they have outstanding fines. Years ago, that wasn't an option. It was like, if you owe anything, you can't drive. Nowadays, people don't know this, but they can just get their license reinstated and work out a payment plan to get those fines paid down. So we do a whole bunch of stuff, and we are, like I said, I am proud to say, and Mary can vouch for this, we were the first in the state, and we are the leader in the state for becoming that one-stop agency. In other parts of the state, you'll find two or three programs doing, maybe one's doing diversion, another one's doing reentry, another one's doing schoolwork. Our model has been really touted as the one the state would like to see happen, and so I think there's been 3 or 4 other communities that have jumped on board and now have a one-stop shop as well. So we do work closely with the Bennington Police, and I know that's why you've invited me here, and I would really welcome a dialogue. I just wanted to spurt out everything that we do, but as you can imagine, we work very closely with the Bennington Police Department, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for all of those individuals. Chief Doucette and Lieutenant Grande and we meet quite regularly. When I said I'll come back to pre-charge, one of the cool things we started with Chief Doucette, State's Attorney Marthage, and myself was the pre-charge program. Several years ago, we were like, oh, we're getting so many kids in our diversion program that, they steal a candy bar from Walmart, or, they get in the fight after school at the bus stop. And it's like, if we could reroute those juveniles from entering the justice system with these first-time low-level offenses. So we met and we said, you know what? And I ended up landing a grant. It was like $20,000 grant from the Vermont Community Foundation. And I said, let's do this pre-charge. What if the police, just refer them right to all of our programs, which are all, I omitted to say, follow the fundamental principles of restorative justice. Restorative justice it's a principle of justice where it holds people accountable for their actions and helps them understand, like, okay, I may have harmed somebody, so what is it I need to do to make things right? It's not a sentencing board. They themselves say, okay, yeah, I didn't think about it like that. Maybe I should go apologize to that person, or I took out that mailbox. You know what? I'm going to go fix the mailbox that got taken out. But they themselves try to learn, like, what is it I did? Who have I harmed? What can I do to fix that harm? So that's a fundamental principles of how we do business at CRJ. So what we did with the pre-charge was we said, okay, just have the police refer kids to us. directly and bypass the justice system. And State's Attorney Marthage got on board with that and said, yeah, here's a list of offenses that I'm good with, that if they're first time around, send them straight to CRJ. And we have, and we started that several years ago, and it's a great program giving young people and now adults. We now entertain adults in our pre-charge program. And this, again, bypasses the justice system for those first time, that you leave in Hannaford and you forget underneath your purse is some items you may not have purchased. Those are the people that can come to us, people that might have made a mistake and, maybe, I wasn't thinking, I was going through a real rough patch. And, well, let's do this pre-charge. Let's think about that. So we have retail theft programs that we do with them, or we have community panels. We have circles. We do mediation. We use a bunch of restorative tools that are the best equipped to help deal with helping that individual really try to understand what harm was caused and how can they fix it. So our work with the community, so the police also come to panels because many times they are victims, and they'll attend a panel and share with individuals like, when you eluded police, here's what I had to do. I had to go 90 miles an hour and run you down, find you on the road. You really risked not only my life, but these other people. And these people have these aha moments, it's like, oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. And that's the real cool thing with restorative justice. And I'll tell you one really quick story. It's kind of like, look who's here. My friends. A really cool story about restorative justice. This is how it can be so cool compared to like a traditional court system. So we had these two young people. They found a purse in Price Chopper, and they took the purse, took the money out of the purse, and they threw it in the woods. And let's see, I don't remember if it was cameras. This is like several years ago. Anyway, we did a restorative panel, and the purse ended up belonging to this elderly woman. And we had there was a young couple, they were like 17 or 18, and they met with the older woman, and we did this little thing, and we said, why don't you explain to the victim? She explained to them, do you know that day, my husband's disabled, and he was having a really bad moment. We were picking up medication at Price Chopper, and he was having an episode, and I was trying to get him in the car. And as I wasn't even thinking, he was having a really bad time, and I drove off, and I drove home, and left my purse sitting in the carriage. And I got home, and I said, oh my God, I left that there. And she says, and Price Chopper didn't know anything about it. So she said, but in my purse was not only, my husband's medication was in there, the keys to my house were in there. You knew my driver's license, you knew where I lived. I had to change all the locks on my house. We lived in fear, not knowing, are you coming after us or whatnot? And so these kids are sitting there going, oh my God, we just wanted the money. We didn't want we weren't out to harm you. And so they had this dialogue, and they said, we did not realize that the pain that they caused this woman, even though they just think they innocently took her cash and threw the wallet away. And so they had this moment where she was relieved. She said, oh, thank God, because I really thought we were living in fear. And they were like, oh gosh, no, we didn't mean that. And long story short, they all hugged, there were tears, and it was like this moment, like, you don't get that in a courtroom. Okay, that's what restorative justice is about. It's really about figuring out how that person can learn. And I will bet my paycheck that if those people found that purse in that Price Chopper carriage, the first thing they're going to do is going to bring it back into the service desk and probably turn that in, because they now know the impact that their actions that they thought were pretty innocent, just take the $80 out of the wallet had. So that's a little story about restorative justice. But back to so pre-charge has been really effective with kiddos. It's allowing the police to refer to us. And what can I tell you about the police? I had some other thought. We did this other cool training with the police. We did two, one in December, one in May, I think it was, and really helping them understand what restorative justice is about, and particularly working with youth. and how recognizing the signs of trauma in young kids, and just effectively communicating with young people. And we did this great training actually in this room, and we had law enforcement from all over the county, and I'm proud to say I think Bennington Police probably had, I think, a dozen people here. Really committed to figuring out ways to work cooperatively together. Like I said, underage drinking tickets, they're notorious for hand-delivering them over to us, because I think it's about building relationships, and that, I think, is what's really important. Anyway, ask me what you would like. What would you like to know?
How do your clients feel when you first get a client, and are they receptive to the program?
Well, it really depends.
find?
Some are very relieved and thinking like, oh, good, thank goodness I have an opportunity to, because if they finish diversion, their record, it gets dismissed and expunged right away, so there's no trail of any kind of a record. So some of those folks are really grateful. There are some that think, it's surprising to me that some maybe aren't so happy to be there. They may still deny that they did anything wrong. So one of the things we do with restorative justice is like, you don't have to be sorry. You just have to take responsibility for what you did. The kids that, took slingshots and went through town and busted, 20 people's back windows out of the car, like they just, are you being responsible for what you did? They thought it was really, funny, and they thought they were just clowning around, but we can't make people feel something, but we can ask them to take responsibility. And the people on the opposite end, even the reentry folks, I think they're really grateful for having this opportunity for support. But I can't speak for all 1,600. There are people that, like I said, that we do have to send back, that may not engage, but our success rate is really quite high. So.
Well, as somebody who's received a couple of the letters that have come out of your program for over the past several years, it does make a difference. So, from a victim's perspective, anyway, I'm just saying.
And it does. It really empowers a victim to have a voice in the process, and that is the fundamental thing we believe is so important about restorative justice, is that getting that victim an opportunity of what do you need to feel their harm has been repaired. What would you like to see happen? And they have an active voice in the process, which is really, really neat. But like I said, we do a thorough intake with all of our folks, and we get to know them as a person. It's about, to me, it's respect, having a dignified process. These are folks, many of these folks, are you and I, they're our family members, they're people that just might have made a real silly, one-time mistake. Or a lot of them are dealing with some significant crises in their lives, or dealing with substance use issues, or domestic violence issues at home. We deal with it all, and yeah.
Do you collaborate with like PAVE and Turning Point?
Yeah. One thing I have to say with the Bennington community is that the number of committees and groups that we have while working together is really unfounded in the rest of the state. I mean, we have justice teams and lit team meetings, and we're constantly working together to make a better community. And it's Sunrise and PAVE and UCS and the Coalition for the Homeless, and school, state's attorney, the courts. I mean, it's really, it's about relationships, and I say this all the time. It's like, okay, so we work with probation and parole quite closely. We are the only community justice agency that actually has an office at probation and parole. When I go to meetings up north and they say, oh, what do you mean you meet every month with your probation parole district manager? I'm like, well, yeah, how else are we going to have a relationship? And then they, and when we have an office there, we have our reentry coordinator can work right out of that office. that's unheard of across the state to have that kind of relationship, because how else are you going to work together collaboratively if we don't have those kind of relationships? So that's what I think we strive to do here, and I think we could pick up the phone to any community member and brainstorm. And like I said, that's how the pre-charge program started with the chief and Erica Marthage, and just try to figure out what could we be doing better and figuring out ways to make things better. So.
Well, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I guess kind of two-part. One is, my first thought was, are you fully staffed, or do you need staffing or different things that way? And then I just thought in general, do you have other challenges, either staffing or otherwise, that make it harder for you to do what you need to do?
Fortunately, we are fully staffed, and we do run on grants, so every year you don't know what you're going to get. This was a good year for us. We received increases in pretty much all of our main state grants, and that's usually based on referrals and performance, and so I'm really proud to say we did receive increases. We actually picked up a new grant with the school system, so we are now hiring for a full-time restorative case manager who will be placed right at the middle school and the high school to do in-school restorative work with their team. So that's we just landed that contract today. Today I just met with the principals and we're getting that off the ground. So fortunately we are fully staffed. Challenges, I would say, like I said, I've been doing it for 18 years. I would say within the last 5 years, it's the degree of complexity of issues that we're dealing with people. You know, the old school diversion case that the person might come in with just maybe a simple retail theft charge or something really, pretty minor. Now we're finding, well, it's because they're homeless. They have significant substance use issues. They are dealing with domestic issues at home. And so we are unearthing a lot of different layers of issues that we're finding that I don't feel like 15 years ago we were dealing with. So now, as our case manager, their job isn't done, with, okay, we'll deal with the retail theft charge. It's like, okay, we need to connect you to PAVE. We need to get you with economic services so you can get food help. We need to connect you to housing. So our case managers go well above and beyond just the incident. It's trying to connect people to those services. So that's the challenge that we're facing. And you've heard it, with the substance use issues in this community are really, and it's affecting the kids. We have kids coming to our after-school program who just lost a parent the night before who was killed in a murder, but they came to the program after because they know it's a safe place and they know it's a place that they can come get adult supervision, support, and feel safe. And, yeah.
Robert? Any questions? Or?
I do have a question. One of them was just asked, but the other one was when you were talking about COSA, the circles, what are qualifications to become part of that? Trainings involved?
So it's an intensive training. Okay. The qualification, they do have to go through a criminal background check. A person cannot be actively under supervision with Department of Corrections, but they may, if they have had a past charge, that may not prohibit them. They just have to be cleared through DOC. The qualifications are somebody who's a caring individual that feels they're non-judgmental, that they're willing to help somebody with pretty serious, these could be sex offenders, people with some pretty serious charges that they've spent maybe decades in jail. So somebody that can look beyond the charge and look at them as a person and then yet not diminishing it, holding them accountable, but figuring out, okay, what is it I can do to support you to move on? And so the idea with COSA is that after a year, some of those relationships continue. So for example, they may say, we'll meet up for coffee on Sunday just to check in, and maybe even if COSA is done, it's not unusual for a relationship to continue for years that somebody might have developed with a person. So yeah, so if you're interested, please call. We're always looking for COSA volunteers. It's one of the toughest volunteer positions to fill because of you do need to commit to a minimum of a year and meeting once a week. So. I will say we do host an annual, it's called the Bennington Justice League. It's a kickball tournament. We invite all of our partners involved in the system, and the Bennington Police Department, they were the champions the first year, but they were defeated this past year by, was it Winhall or Manchester? They took it very hard. It was not pretty. But they won. But anyway, that's the relationship piece. We try to get together. We invited the state's attorneys and the courts, the police, and others that we work with just to get out on the field, to have fun together. And because those are the types of relationships that you're like, oh yeah, I remember seeing you at kickball, and then you run into them in other avenues. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, okay, great. I've got a couple of questions first. Thank you for coming. How many facilities do you operate in Bennington?
We're on Main Street.
On Main Street?
That's our main office, but we'll hold panels like in Manchester, and things like that.
Have you ever had cause to call for the police, like a 911 call to the police to come to your office for any kind of incident?
There was once, what the heck was it? Oh, the kids on the back of the, so we're right between the new vape shop and the marijuana shop.
Oh, my
goodness. And right between, and we are back, we think they were trying to get into one of the shops, so they came up on we have cameras out back, and we found, these kids were climbing up on the back roof, and so I think we called them. But nothing, not an incident within our organization. Right. It was just things like that.
Would it be safe to say that most, if not all, of your clients have had interactions with the police before they've gotten to you?
I would say probably maybe almost all of them.
Almost all of them.
Except for maybe the kids at school.
Right.
But all the underage drinking, yeah. Anybody charged with an incident, pre-charged, right. Yes, I would say absolutely all of them.
Would you think that, on average, your clients, while they're in your program, are more likely to have interactions with the police than, say, the general public?
While they're in our program, or you mean?
Yes, while they're getting into any kind of trouble where... While
they're in our program.
Well, the police have had to talk to them.
It depends which program. I think some of the low-end, the pre-charge and diversion, a lot of times it's a one and done, and they really... But I'm guessing some of the people on the other end of the program that they do reoffend, if people are under supervision with probation and they have a violation, I'm imagining the police get involved. But
Would you know if any of them had been, interaction with the police and had what they considered a negative situation with them? Would that kind of information
it would
come
probably
to you?
Come out, because we work very closely with them, and I would guess they would probably tell their case manager if there was something. I've never heard of anything.
You haven't heard of anything like that?
No.
Okay. Offhand, do you think the school resource officers are, I don't know how to describe it, good? I mean, for the situation, do they help with things? Or, because I know there have been, not necessarily here in Bennington, but I've heard things where people say the school resource officer program isn't necessarily good for the school. Do you think it's good?
I keep saying this is about relationships. You know what I mean? I know Ben Lackey was in one of the middle school, and I think he's going to high school. But the relationship that they have with the kids is what matters. It's not the position. It's how that individual. So making that right individual. I think there was is it Dwight with the sheriff's department, was up in Shaftesbury. I mean, he was so great with the kids. It's not the position, it's the person in the position.
It's the person. So a few weeks ago, we had what hopefully will be our first listening session, where we try to invite the community to come here and talk to us about their experiences and their thoughts about the police. Hopefully, we'll be doing that in the future. Two things. One, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, do you think you would in any way welcome an opportunity to collaborate with us on something like that? And do you think you could help us get the word out to your clients and encourage them to attend?
certainly would be happy to get the word out. That's
Yeah.
not a problem. When you say collaborate, if is a listening session, if it's defined as, I was involved in one years ago, and it was not a good experience, and so I would not participate if that happened again.
Okay.
It was, I don't know if they would call it a listening session, but we all sat at the library at tables, and we couldn't speak. And it was all various police officers, the chief and others, and the public came. And I was never felt so hurt for people. I wasn't a target, but I heard people belittling and demeaning, and it wasn't respectful, and they couldn't respond. And I left there feeling that was one of the, in my professional career, one of the most disheartening experiences I ever had, because there was no control, and people just said whatever they wanted. So my recommendation is there should be parameters, there should be respect, there should be, and I think if somebody's going to bring up an issue or a problem, offer a solution, like be part of the, don't be, solution, not just the problem, and not to say they don't have, everyone has an opportunity to be heard. I'm 100% behind it. But that experience, if that's what a listening session is, I don't remember if that was the name of it, but it just wasn't healthy.
Right.
It didn't feel good for anybody. So I would just be very clear of facilitate. There was, I don't even think anybody, if they did facilitate, I don't remember, because it went really wrong.
Do you collaborate at all with the Sheriff's Department?
Oh, yes.
You did
Yep.
them
Met with
as well?
Sheriff Gully. Worked most closely with Bennington Police. We're countywide, but Chief Tinkham, Lieutenant Coote, oh my God, Commander Coote from the State Police, and and of course, the Chief down here, very, very closely. Yeah.
Just one last question. Can you think of anything offhand that you would like Bennington Police Department to know about your clients that perhaps they don't know?
Like I said, we have such a good, close working relationship. I feel they know everything that they need to know. And like I said, the real neat thing is if I have a problem or a question or need anything, I can pick up the phone, and they right there. They pick up right away. And they know what we're dealing with. And so we're very grateful to have that relationship. Like I said, I don't think other communities have that. So we're really lucky here in Bennington.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any last
I
questions?
want to caution, because school resources fall under SVSU, and the Sheriff's Department has nothing, CPARB and the Sheriff's Department
okay.
have, so we just want to be really careful and cautious with that to not overstep. But Scott, any questions? Okay, does anyone from the public have a question or comment?
Oh.
Well, no.
Looking over all the services you provide, and there are a lot of them, I imagine it must be difficult to track how you're doing. I mean, how do you handle that? How do you measure what's successful, what's working, what's not working, what areas need working on?
It is complicated. Each agency with the state has different reporting requirements, so I basically just spent my last 2 weeks reporting back to the state on success. So we do have accountability for all of our grants, and I didn't bring the success rate, but it's close to, I think, 85% with diversion. I don't have the reparative ones, but success rates, meaning if they go through a restorative program and they have a restorative agreement or a contract, and they've fulfilled obligations to the victim, that's a success rate for us. So in most of our pre-charge diversion cases, it's a very high 85 to 90% success rate of completion. And then the COSAs, that end, our success rate is no recidivism, so that they don't end up back in jail while we're working with them. And again, with the supports in place, the success rate is quite high. So. That's it. And if anybody wants to volunteer, we're always looking for volunteers. And that's at the heart of what we do is our volunteers.
Do you have a webpage?
We do, bcrj.org. So,
Okay, great.
So, I might.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for inviting me. Thank you very much.
For everything that you and your staff.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So next on our agenda, we're going to hear from Chief Paul. And I know if you're in a listening session, we talked about he would be here talking about the soft restraints for the mental health changes in the regulations. But after we had the listening session, we were talking about some of the things that came out. So he's going to be here. He is here. And he's going to talk about some recruitment and some staffing. And then we will put these soft restraints on the policy on a future agenda. So, Chief Doucette, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me at CPARB again. So we are in a situation now at the Bennington Police Department. We've struggled with staffing like many other departments. I collaborate with my colleagues from around the state to see what's happening. And in the last couple of months last 2 months or so probably, we have seen an influx of applications and more people around Vermont in general interested in law enforcement. I am pleased to report that we have 4 recruits that have passed all of their testing, the MMPI, the physical agility testing, polygraph, background check, all of the things associated with going off to the academy. And we will be sending 4 individuals to the police academy for level 3 training at the beginning of August. So our timeline on that is that we pray that they are successful, that they don't get hurt when they're at the academy, or and they get through all of the training requirements, and they will come out of the academy in November, at which time they'll join with field training officers, and we're hoping that they'll be road ready to be level 3 certified officers on their own in January of 2024. At the same time, we are also preparing officers or candidates, recruits, to go off to the February 2024 level 3 certification course. We do have 2 people that will be sending to the part-time, which we call level 2 training, in September of 2023. They'll go to the 2 weeks of training, at which time they'll work with Bennington police officers, FTOs, until they go off to the full-time training in February of 2024. So if you do the math, there's 6, and we are actively seeking 2 more people. We do have some people that we're interested in that Lieutenant Grandy and I and others have interviewed and spoken with, and so we are gaining. We are hopeful that we can fill our positions and get back up to full staff and be able to serve the needs of the Bennington community in a better way. Not that we're doing a bad job now, but just it's really challenging and it's daunting at times. So what does that mean? Well, in working with the police union and some of the officers, Lieutenant Grandy and I have worked together, and we've created a 12-hour hybrid schedule that we just implemented this week. And the officers seem very happy. It's only week 1. The officers seem very happy with the 12-hour hybrid schedule. So what we did was we took the evening shift and the midnight shift, we divided them into 2 teams, and they come in at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and they work until 5 o'clock in the morning. The day shift is working a 10-hour day at the present time, and that leaves Lieutenant Grandy, the detectives, and I to cover any gaps that are in that schedule. So we are still providing 24/7, 365 coverage in Bennington. There are many communities in the state of Vermont who are unable to provide 24/7 coverage, and we're proud and pleased to say that we're still able to do that as of right now. So it is a challenge, but it was, again, it was something that the officers wanted, and per the working agreement, that is something that I am required to sit down and speak with union members about the schedule, and the chief does get the final say. And after the presentation by Lieutenant Grandy on the 12-hour hybrid schedule, we opted to implement that. It is a trial basis, and that trials basis schedule will remain in effect until January of 2024. We'll reevaluate, and we are in hopes, I know the union personnel are in hopes that that 12-hour schedule will be for all of the union personnel that are assigned to the patrol division, and everyone will work 12s. There are some benefits to that, which is one of the reasons why we implemented it. It's you work the 12-hour schedule, and it gives you every other weekend off. So it's important to me as the chief and to the lieutenant as someone that's in charge of the patrol division that we are able to spend time with our families. Family time is important, and having to work every weekend is not conducive. It's not conducive to trying to recruit people to the Bennington Police Department, and we think that this schedule is going to work, or we wouldn't have implemented it. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that, but I do want to report some good news other than the 12-hour shift and the recruitment efforts. As of today, I have signed a document between the Bennington Police Department and the Vermont Department of Public Safety, allowing the Bennington Police Department to have a crisis worker embedded into the Bennington Police Department. Right now, it is for 1 year. And that crisis worker will be assigned to the Bennington Police Department 24 hours a week. It's not the 40 that we were hoping for, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. The MOU between the Department of Public Safety and the Bennington Police Department does require that I work closely with the Select Board in coming up with ways to fund a 40-hour-a-week position within the Bennington Police Department in fiscal year 2025. And just to be clear, you know, for the people at home and for the people that don't understand how our budget cycle works, we are currently in fiscal year 2024. So when you think 2025, please don't think that it's not going to happen until 2025. But we are required, Tom, to work closely and see if we can find the funding for this position and keep that going with the United Counseling Service. And in talking with Lorna Matern, whom you all know, we're hoping maybe to find some grant money out there so it's not, you know, a huge hit or a huge burden on the taxpayers in the police department budget under other purchase services. So again, we're very happy about that. We think it is needed, especially with all of the other issues that the police department is expected to fix. And I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. And it's been a lot of work to get here, and I'm very thankful to the Department of Public Safety. And there's just, if I had to stand here and thank everybody, it would take me a few minutes. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's been involved in this to make this happen. And I think it's definitely going to be a step in the right direction for us. I just want to promote one thing while I'm here. I know this is not a select board meeting where people get up and promote their events, but National Night Out is on August 1st. I would hope that all of you would attend our event. It's going to be bigger than it's ever been. This will be our third event, and we have collaborated with some community partners to make this a really nice event, giving away backpacks, working with the banner. There's a whole list. There's going to be a big ad in the Bennington banner, Heritage Family Credit Union, M&T Bank. There's just Hannaford. There's just a whole list of people that we're collaborating with to make this event possible. It's definitely a community event. Bring your friends, bring your family, free food, and we're going to start on the first at 5 p.m. and go to 7 p.m. And we hope that you all will attend, and people at home will attend this event, meet some of the officers, see some of our equipment, and see what our community partners have to offer. So.
Is that at Willow Park then?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. It is. It is at Willow Park. It's going to be at the lower pavilion, as it has been in the last couple of years. So we're definitely excited about that. We just got through New Experience Camp last week. Whew, that was a long week, but it was a good time. We had 28 kids come through camp this year, and it was our 21st year doing it, and it's just unbelievable how much fun the kids have spending time, with the officers and with the fire department and with the hospital staff. And some of these kids had never been caving. We had Jonah take them caving. They did make fun of Jonah's outfit, but we won't go there. But Jonah did an amazing job. But my staff, they put their heart and soul into this, and to make the camp successful. And some of them work all night and then come to camp all day, go home, get a few hours of sleep. It makes for a rough, long week, but it's so worth it. And then on Friday afternoon, we take them whitewater rafting. We brought them all back here, sat them down, we went around the room, and we asked them what they liked the most and what they wanted to see changed for next year. So it's just great. And so, we look forward to that and stuff. And those are just some positive things that are happening at the Bennington Police Department. And I will get back to you next month, hopefully, on soft restraints. There's just a little bit of a hiccup in that. And, it's just, before I speak out of turn, I just want to make sure I have all the facts and the proper equipment to show you. So.
I do have one question on the crisis caseworker. We've had conversations before about possibly sharing one with VSP. Is this that, or is that something else?
No. So what's
possibility of getting two?
So what's happening right now? Thank you for asking that. I should have told you that. What's happening now is the United Counseling Service has contracted with the Department of Public Safety for 2 crisis workers. One is assigned 40 hours a week at the Shasbury Barracks. The other one will be assigned to us 24 hours a week. What we have into this right now for the next year is we have to provide safety to the crisis worker. We have to provide office space, training, and things of that nature. So we're ultimately responsible for the crisis worker, and UCS is required to provide adequate supervision for the crisis worker. But quite honestly, we're already doing it. We're already utilizing the crisis worker that's assigned to the Shasbury Barracks, and we had a couple of incidents today that some of my people may need to talk to someone about, a therapist or what have you. UCS has already reached out because they know what kind of day we had today, and so we already have that good working relationship. But to answer your question in a short version, yes, they will be assigned to the barracks, but they will be. It'll be through the state police, but one worker will be assigned to the Bennington Police Department, and the other one will remain at the barracks. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
I just, a couple questions on the 12-hour shift. Is that going to reduce the amount of overtime that the officers are required to work right now? Or will that kind of bleed in as the new officers are coming out of the academy? where everybody will have some more.
So what this 12-hour shift has done, it's allowed in some situations, not every day, in some situations it has allowed a fourth person to be on a shift and allow other officers to get caught up with paperwork and things that they may be falling behind on. It also allows us to go out and do projects like tonight with Midnight Madness. We can put people out on Main Street without requiring several officers to come in on overtime. The other thing to think about there is if they're working a 12-hour shift, right, that does not, that 12 hours, it's not 8 hours and then 4 hours of overtime. I want to be clear on that. So basically what happens is they come in, they work their 12 hours, they go home, they come back, and they have a couple of days off, and it rotates. So as I explained to you, they get every other weekend off. So if this works the way we think it's going to work, it should reduce overtime cost, not greatly, until we get more staffing. Where we're going to see a big difference is when we get our 4 recruits out of the academy and the entire patrol division can switch to the 12-hour shift. That's where we're going to really see a difference.
So the plan is to keep them on the 12 hours even after these
Yes,
people come in?
100%. That's what they're interested in.
Okay.
You know, I think too, Scott, the other piece of this is when you look at the 12-hour schedule, you know, and you're working, just as an example, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m., on occasion, you still have that court subpoena, you still have to go to traffic court, there's still special details that have to be filled. So, you know, we're still going to see overtime, but hopefully once those officers come out of the academy, that short shift overtime will be reduced.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was just wondering, so it sounds like you're having success with the 4 and then the 2, and then 2 additional beyond that. But is this I would imagine also there are people that will start to retire over time. So is this just an ongoing, continuous process that you'll be replacing them? Is there planning around that, or is it just hire as needed?
So right now, we Lieutenant Grandy and I have taken a look at really the big picture. You know, the town of Bennington is really working towards making it a little bit easier for us to recruit so that we can compete against departments like Manchester, Wynn Hall, Dover, that have a Plan D retirement system, as an example. That some departments offer medical upon retirement. So the town has really worked well with us, as has the select board, and tried to make it a little bit easier. Because we have to be able to either match or be better than other departments. This is like in your corporate world, right? So I think that we're making good strides with that. And to answer your question, we are looking long range, and right now, Jeff, it's going to be continuous recruitment and hiring. You know, I can't compete against take-home cars. I can't compete against Monday through Friday, and I can't compete with some positions with other employers that, you know, give people the summer off and things like that. I mean, if you work in public safety, you can't have the whole summer off. So there's a lot to look at, you know, but it's going to be continuous recruitment and hiring.
And then, I guess, just with that, do you foresee the overall amount of people staying the same, or do you think that there is more requests for police help or more issues so that you would need more staff as time goes on, or do you foresee it staying about the same to be fully staffed?
No, I mean, quite honestly, I mean, this is something else that in my time with the town, you know, we've always felt that we needed additional law enforcement officers. When you compare the size of our community, how much coverage area we have, and the fact, quite honestly, we're on track this year to have 13,000 plus incidents handled by the Bennington Police Department, and that's just the police department. So, you know, and we have, I'm going to mention one more thing that is not on the agenda that I think is important as we go down this path about recruiting and retaining and the police trying to be helpful and work with our community partners. We are currently working with Bill Camarda, who's the new executive director of Bennington Rescue, to bring some advanced first aid training to the town of Bennington, specifically to the police department, so that we can go out and assist the rescue squad when they need it. Bill and I have kind of joked back and forth about this, and you know, I'd like some of his people to go to the part-time police academy, but I don't think that's going to work. But all kidding aside, we are working together. In fact, on the 31st of this month, we're having a joint meeting, and we're going to, Bill's going to apply for some grant funding so that we can provide advanced first aid training. And what we want to do with that is we're hoping that will be part of our recruitment tool for us as well. And it's also a safety issue because the officers should know how to use chest seals and all of the extra stuff, ambu bags instead of mouth-to-mouth, all of the extra things that we don't have training in, the rescue squad is going to provide to us through this grant. So it's just one more step in our community collaboration so that we can go and assist the squad. I mean, we do it now, but sometimes we stand there and hold things, but we'll be able to jump in with them and help them out. We're already there. It's not like we're creating more work. We're already there. It's just now we're going to be able to go hands-on and help them when needed. So it's just one more little thing that we're working on.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Chief, thanks. With a 12-hour shift, how come, I know it's only temporary, but why is day shift only working 10?
I don't have enough people to put the day shift on a 12-hour rotation. It requires 2 teams to make that happen, and I only have enough for about 1.5 teams at this point, except when Lieutenant Grandy and I or the detectives work. But I can't do 12 hours of patrol and then do my administrative functions all in the same day.
Okay. You said you're going to evaluate the 12-hour shift in January. Offhand, how do you decide if it's a success or a failure?
So that will be a combination of Lieutenant Grandy and I looking at incident reports and how much work is getting done, and is it getting done successfully and completely, and then meeting with, having a department meeting and talking with the officers to get their feedback on how things are going, and see what their thoughts are. I mean, quite honestly, if this isn't conducive and it's not working the way we think it will work, then we'll go back to 8.5s. But really, our goal is to, again, get the recruits out of the academy, get them trained, and then divide them up, and then have 4 teams of people working 12-hour shifts, and that will provide adequate coverage to the town for now.
Okay. Is it still a 40-hour week, the 12-hour shift?
So the 12-hour shift is, some weeks it's 36, and other weeks it's 48, right? So it balances out on average to about that 40 hours.
You don't have to pay overtime for when it's 48?
On the 12-hour shifts, we have agreed that we are not paying overtime on the 12-hour shifts. And I think that's important too. I mean, you've got a group of officers who are willing to do this 12-hour shift. Yes, they get every other weekend off, but at the same time, they're not asking for overtime. We can build that into the working agreement, very similar to what Manchester does. Manchester Police Department, for example, they work 4 on, 4 off. The Vermont Department of Corrections works 7 on, 7 off.
Wow.
I'm not ready for that, for sure, because I think it's too much, in my opinion. But, you know, with our schedule that we have, this is the schedule that we agreed upon, that we would try. in January, we might look at this and we might say, well, maybe we should be 4 on, 4 off. So it's trial and error, but I think this is, I really do believe that this is going to be successful.
Good work. On the crisis officer, what level of police training does a crisis officer have?
No, so the crisis is, it's a crisis worker, so it's going to be someone with complete mental health training.
Okay.
They're not going to have any law enforcement power or authority. They'll work alongside the officers.
On the scene, would respond to a scene?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes.
Okay, but they're not law enforcement, okay.
Correct.
Just back to staffing, have you researched or looked into at all the idea of contracting with the Sheriff's Department to provide the law enforcement functions that they're qualified to provide, to free up more of your staff's time to concentrate on some of the bigger crime issues in town?
No, I have zero interest in contracting with the Sheriff's Department.
I'm sorry, what?
I have zero interest in contracting with the Sheriff's Department. I think that my staff is able to handle the things that are going on in Bennington right now. Although I think Sheriff Gully is trying, he's got other things that he focuses on. He focuses on contracts within communities. I don't think Bennington needs a contract with the Sheriff's Department. I think that my staff is very capable of handling what's going on here. And, all of our people at this point are level 3 certified and are able to conduct all of the different types of investigations that are required. A lot of employees at the Sheriff's Department, and it has nothing to do with the Bennington County Sheriff's Department or the Windham County Sheriff's Department, because I understand they're doing some work in the area. Has nothing to do with that. There are certain things that you can and cannot do when you're only level 2 certified. That's why we work towards that goal of getting everyone level 3 certified.
Right, okay. I'd like to ask one more question. It's not related to this, if I can. So a couple of weeks ago, the stories in the paper were about, the closing of People's Park. There were some complaints, people, I think wrongly, putting it on the police department as if you're the ones who thought it up. No complaints about how the police did it, how the police interacted with people. I was wondering if you could give us real briefly, just because I'm curious, an idea of physically, what do the police have to do when they're sent into an area and said, well, clear this out and close this area down? What do they have to do when they get there?
That's a great question, and I'm glad that you asked that. We had a meeting earlier today, and there was some discussion on the closing of People's Park. That was a decision that I made based on several warnings that were given at People's Park. People's Park is a place for our entire community to enjoy, and when there's alcohol and drug abuse and use going on in a community park, there are people that are fighting, there are people that are getting injured, and defecating and doing things that they should not be doing. We needed a timeout. And, it was not to pick on people that may or may not be homeless. That's debatable. There's plenty of people that use People's Park that are not homeless. Right. And we made the decision to go down there and ask people to move along and close the park temporarily so that Buildings and Grounds could go in there and clean it up and make it sanitary for everyone to be able to use and enjoy. The people did not give us a hard time. They moved along. There was absolutely zero force used to move the people along, and it's worked out it's worked out to the point where people now that enjoy going to People's Park will call the police and report when they're seeing things taking place that should not be taking place. And we have issued several tickets down there, several municipal violations. There has been some arrests since the reopening of People's Park. And we just want it to be safe for everyone. And I want to repeat myself. It has nothing to do with the homeless population. It has nothing to do with any of that. It was about safety and our are concerned for safety, and I think that eventually, with continued visits in collaboration with our community partners, because that's our goal, we're working towards that, whether we go down there with Turning Point or the Homeless Coalition to talk to people, the officers that is, I think that we can improve that, but it's going to take work on everyone's part. The problem is it's always been left, and it's not a pity party, but it's always been left up to the police department to deal with that.
Right.
And, the other piece of it is, who else do you call after 4 o'clock in the afternoon when something goes wrong, right? Because most people go home at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. 24/7, 365. So people call the police. My people go down there. They don't just write tickets and arrest people at People's Park. Lieutenant and I have been down there and we've sat with people and talked to them about their issues. We've referred them, especially people from out of the area, to the soup kitchen and to economic services. So, there's a piece that people miss in this, and in that the police department members actually go to People's Park and other locations and provide information about where people can get services. And that's an important part of this, that we're not just going down there and saying, hey, get out of People's Park, because that's not what's happening.
Great, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I just want to say, I think it's really, the 12-hour schedules, I have pros and cons on. I've worked them before, but I think that I think it says a lot that the frontline officers wanted this and came to you and you were open to trying it. I hope that makes them feel that they have a voice in scheduling and the way things go. I know you have to go by the working group agreement, but I know that this is something that many of them have wanted for a long time.
Yes.
So I think it's good that you're trying it. I'll feel better when days goes on and it's not that blended.
I think...
But I think it's great that you listen to the frontline officers and they have a say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as time goes by, the first few months, I think everybody's just going to, it's great. But we are going to have that meeting where we can talk about pros and cons, as you just said, and make sure that, most of you know how this works with the union. It's pretty much majority rules as long as the chief approves, right? And I think that's what we're working towards. I mean, Lieutenant Grandy is ultimately in charge of the patrol division, and we're going to monitor this closely because we don't want to see the fatigue, but at the same time, yes, they're working 12s, but they're also getting a little more time off. So, and they can use that time to recover and spend time with their families, as we've talked about. So, we're looking forward to it.
That time to regroup, to giving them, the every other weekend off and time for them, so that work-life balance is important for mental health. We heard a lot about that.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks,
So-
Chief. Oh, wait. Oh.
Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry. Any
No.
questions?
No. Perfect. So if...
Actually, I like this because you come to this board more often than you come to our board, so I get bonus questions.
See you in 2 weeks.
Which is cool, I know. Just on the 4 new recruits, which is awesome. Are they from the area? Are they from far away? How do they come to apply to the department?
Not that far away. So we have... you will eventually meet them. We want to bring them to CPARB, and we also want to bring them to a select board meeting, but we want them to get going with their training. So we have 2 females, 2 males, and they have all resided within, I'm going to guess here, about 40 minutes of Bennington, not even, and one of them is local and doesn't live too far from the police department, so she walks to work. But yeah, I mean, we didn't bring people in from New Jersey or whatever. So. Okay, so if you don't mind, Cam and I are asking to be excused. It is Midnight Madness. We have obligations there as well, but I definitely enjoy coming to these meetings and speaking with all of you. And so if you don't mind, we're going to head out and go perform some services downtown and hopefully maybe go to the Village Chocolate Shop, maybe. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
See you at National Night Out.
Yes, National Night Out, August 1st, 5 to 7, Willow Park.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda is a recap of the community listening section. So I'm going to give my recap on what I thought, and then I've asked each of the board members to put some time, some thought into it, and to give their takeaways on it. And then hopefully we can work on next steps and action plans. So the listening session, like our meetings, is a chance for everyone in our community to be heard, to be seen, or not if they choose not to. And to not only have a seat at the table, but a voice at the table. Lived experiences strengthen our community and our collaborative outcomes. That was a large part of why we had the listening session. We want to thank all of those that attended and participated. We had about 25 people that attended in person. We have about 10 people that chose to speak, and we received 3 written comments from our website, which were read. We heard numerous comments about mental health-related situations and trauma in our community. We received encouragement to continue to reach out and seek input from different members of the BIPOC community, different demographics, different agencies, and organizations such as the National Association for Mentally Ill. We heard support of BPD and the understanding that they are short-staffed. We were encouraged to take a broader look at problems by not only looking at them simply as crimes, but as community problems. We heard about the lack of diversity on our board and in the listening session. We heard comments and concerns about defunding or realigning police resources and fears that CPARB may actually do more harm than good. We heard about the need for continuous improvement and development. People voiced concerns about the closing of People's Park, wanting to know what the town is doing for housing the homeless, the lack of public restrooms downtown, the impact of the media's portrayal of criminal defendants in handcuffs and police with guns. We heard about societal issues criminalizing domestic abuse and children's difficulties in school when police are called into homes or schools. We heard comments about the needs to develop collaborative community partnerships to build trust. We were told that CPARB's work should encourage empathy and understanding over fear. We're encouraged to empower frontline officers to develop an engaging problem-solving process that has the organizational structure to not only support it, but to encourage it. We heard about the importance of community involvement. The community told CPARB to ask them for help when we need it. We heard a lot of community support for the Bennington Police Department, including appreciation for the new experience camp, which the chief said was held last week. There was an understanding that the department is short-staffed, but there's also concerns about rising crime, and that could be an unintentional blowback from having a board such as CPARB. We heard positive comments about the communication that happened in this room. There was communication that happened during the break. We had common themes, an appreciation for BPD and what they do for the community, genuine care for the Bennington community, but we heard community situations require community collaboration, mental health trauma, and the need for more mental health support and services, especially with homelessness, substance abuse, and mental illness. This listening session was more like a data collection for us. Going forward, I'm sure we'll try to include more Q&A. And while some of the listening session comments are out of CPARB's direct charge, my takeaway was to continue to seek input through community outreach and communication, to encourage empathy and understanding over fear, to to encourage training and development opportunities for frontline officers and everyone else in BPD. And to review, the policies and procedures and to continue with education. Because I think with helping with education and communication, we can help normalize conversations around mental health. We can encourage investing in our officers and our community. We can encourage collaboration and education and public comment and encouraging people to come to the meetings. So those are my takeaways. I'm going to start, I'm sorry, Actually, I'll start with Will. And then after that, we can talk about some possible next steps and what the board sees as some action ideas.
Yeah, I don't have my notes in front of me. I guess I put them in my other binder, so I'm going to pass on what I have to say, but I'll submit it to the record potentially next meeting and read them aloud there or something. My apologies.
Robert.
I don't know how I could possibly follow your summation of the meeting. My goodness, you captured pretty much everything that happened. So really, I'd have more to share would be thoughts. I'd like us to try to look at our advertising for the event to see if there's something we could do to get more participation. Might just be because it was the first one. So if we can continue to have these sessions, perhaps it will grow. But if there were ways we could have gotten the word out better, maybe we could look at that. A comment that kind of stuck with me out of the whole thing, it might have been said by more than one person, I don't know, was I don't really know what you guys are doing. I don't know why you're here or what you're supposed to be doing. So that's something I think we probably need to talk about, because either what we're trying to do is not clear, or we're not quite sure yet among ourselves what we're supposed to be doing, because this is all still new to us, or we're just not getting the word out as well as we could. We have goals, we have CPARB goals, and we have activities. In the IACP report, there's like 25 or 30 different recommendations they've made. As much as I hate the thought of having another retreat, I thought maybe someday we could have like a 4-hour retreat just with us and go over this stuff, these recommendations, say, and see if there are any in there that we think, have value, or prioritize them, or maybe, we're talking about action plan, think of ways to bring those recommendations about. But all in all, I think the whole thing went well. I think the people who came here appreciated it. We did get participation. We did get conversation and discussion, and I certainly hope we keep doing this. We don't make this just a one-off. So that's what I got. Oh, that's right. He wasn't here.
I was in Ohio for the wedding.
Yeah, so you say.
Yes, you recapped everything very well, and similar to what Robert said, I think, I didn't know what to expect, and was happy that people were here and did share, and hope that it grows over time. And then he kind of even talked about, some people brought up question and answer. So maybe that's happens in these meetings, but, where it's more of a back and forth at times too. So maybe there's different types of things that we can use to get more interaction with people. So, and then I think maybe somebody made the comment also, it was interesting to see during the break and the pizza and just everybody talking, and definitely felt like a positive environment, which was really nice. So yeah, it was good. And good recap.
I thought, that was my recap, but I thought personally I was nervous nobody was going to show up. To be honest,
Oh, me too. Oh, yeah.
It was our first event. have the correct word, but it was something that the town had contracted with Bennington.
Right.
And I don't think any of us really knew what to expect on it. Personally, I did not like just listening. I did not like having the interaction, the Q&A. Although I understand the importance of the listening and getting the feedback and the information in, I just thought that it would have possibly been a little bit more productive for the people in the audience if there had been time, if we could have gone back and forth. I mean, Robert wanted to ask questions, but trying to get everyone the ability, the time to talk, we didn't have that time. Going forward, I think we'll probably design them a little bit differently, depending on what the board wants. It'll be a collaborative, decision on how we're going to handle it. I do hope we have them again. I don't know if the board's going to want to try to do quarterly, every 6 months, but I think that we should try to do them regularly, and I also think they should be done maybe out in community rooms. Maybe instead of coming here, maybe one time we see if there's a community room at, say, Willow, or there's a community room at Applegate, or maybe one of the churches or something to just maybe go in, and maybe they would be smaller than full, all community, maybe just, I don't know if you want to call them little micro listening sessions or something, but maybe that might be something that we want to look at.
That might be like more participation.
Right.
The groups weren't all lumped into one. So target a specific group and go and meet them, and then the next one target another specific group. It may be a little less daunting, and people will be more likely to show up.
Right. Right.
Technically, on the technological side, I had a lot of difficulty trying to listen from Ohio. That is where I actually
Right, yes, that's what he says.
I tried a couple times, there was no video, there was no audio, and then it just all kind of fizzled, and then I got the video, so we were really extremely audio, so I did try to at least get a little bit.
So, what I'm going to ask each of the board members for one thing that they think that we should do as a board going forward as one takeaway that we should do from the listening session.
I would say it basically, well, we've said it before, but what Scott just said, get out to them. I'm kind of hoping we can collaborate with these different agencies and their directors, and maybe those could be groups. Maybe a CRJ, they could put it out that we're going to come and have a listening session and bring in their people. UCS, maybe bring in, their clients. But I think we do need to get out to where the people are. I think that would be beneficial.
I'm going to pass on that real quick. Give me a second.
Is he allowed to do that? To pass? You're allowed? I could have done that. I could have just passed. But, okay.
One thing I think we can continue to do, or one thing that we have done, like you said, Robert, we've brought in some of the agencies. I think when you look at what CPARB is charged with, we are an advisory review board, so we have to look at things after the fact. Sometimes there might be something we can do maybe a little bit proactively if there's a policy that we may want to take a look at. Maybe there's something that relates to the IACP, but to review the policies, and really all we can do when we do review is just make recommendations, because we're not an oversight board. But I think one of the things that we can do where we can bring a benefit is just getting that communication talking and the education on the why things have to be sometimes the way they are. And well, have you ever thought about maybe how we could possibly do something different because somebody feels, somebody had an experience that wasn't the best, and maybe there's some newer ways to take a look at doing those. That being with law enforcement and the technicalities on some of the policies and procedures and the statutes and changes that come out of Montpelier, I don't know if we don't really have the authority to go and say, well, we want this changed. But I do think that what we can do is pay attention to what we hear and try to bring people in. We heard a lot of concerns about mental health and a lot of the problems that Bennington is having with spiked crime going back to mental health issues. So bringing in people like Letha today who came in and talked about proactive steps. Now, not completely proactive because pre-charge they already had an incident, but trying to work in a manner where you can maybe have that relationship and change somebody's life. So I think that one of the things that we can do is to continue to bring in agencies and people with lived experience. And we've asked people with lived experience to come, and we've reached out to multiple agencies. And some of the agencies actually posted our flyers on their websites and tried to get that. But I think a lot of times it's just going to be going and getting out and talking to people. And sometimes it's going to be with collaborating with an agency, and sometimes it's just going to be taking a walk through People's Park or Main Street or some other community event that the town is having. But that's one of the takeaways that I have.
I think I mentioned it that day as well as a big part of, I think, why we exist is communication. And I think there's benefit to just only listening at times, especially maybe we are somewhere, and to be able to listen without interjecting our own thoughts and things all the time, as people tend to do in general. It's hard sometimes just to listen, but I think you can get more that way. But then on the flip side, having the back and forth communication and trying to understand and clarify can be helpful too. So I think it might be kind of a mixed approach with all those different scenarios to where we really, or anyway for me, try to really listen, and then also once I think I understand, try to make sure that I get it. So that's what I would think for me anyway.
Scott, any action items? I know you weren't here, but.
I think like Robert was saying, we really need to take a hard look at what we've been charged with by the select board and kind of get back to the basics of that. And instead of trying to do these big formalized things, I like the idea of small groups. And if we don't set them up somewhere, work with some of these other places and go to them. Have them promote it within their own specific group of people that they deal with, and we just show up and sit down and talk with them and get ourselves out in the public that way. If the big formalized events with free pizza don't work, then do the smaller events. But yeah, I think we really just need to look at what we've been charged with, work on those points, and do it in smaller steps. We can't take on the whole world at once.
So what do you think our next step should be?
I think we should start talking to some of the organizations that serve who we think are the most affected people, and try to organize small events with them where, Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, whoever's available shows up and we sit down and talk to them, listen to them, ask questions, let them ask us questions, and using the goals that were set by the select board, let that kind of direct the flow of where we go. Communication with the small groups, the charge that we have from the select board, our goals, and I think we would move forward that way easier than trying to get 100, 200 people to come here to sit down with us. You know, a group of 5 or 10 people can give you a lot more information than 100 people not saying a word. That's it. I'm done.
Jeff, what do you think the next step should be?
Can I pass?
I'll come back.
Yeah.
Well, I'll answer this one, and it's about to be what we're going to go into, and that's preparing for the survey question that we're trying to design. Yeah, that way. Hop on over to that.
Robert, next steps?
Well, I think we should continue with inviting the agency directors here to come talk to us and see if we can begin some kind of collaboration with them. We're talking, okay, so let's say we'll do another one in 6 months to give us time to plan it. Let's see what kind of resources agencies can give us, find out from them what they'd like from such a session, and then schedule one and go out and do it. Keep it small.
Is it right to go to the agencies and ask them what they would want us to do, or is it, I mean, is that?
I guess I don't understand the question. I'm just trying to get input on what people, would like to see from, these kind of
So
things.
basically, they're to hear the impressions from their clients, to hear from their client, the agency's clients.
Yes,
Stuff is what we want.
to ask them to help encourage that the people they serve come to these sessions and talk to us, see if we can get their help in encouraging them to come. Again, without beating it around too much now, and like Scott just said, trying to get in touch with the people who are more likely to have had unpleasant dealings with the police. At our listening session a couple of weeks ago, I don't think that group of people was really represented, except maybe by one person. They're the people that I think we need to work the hardest to reach out to get to see what's on their minds and try to find out if those kind of attitudes are widespread or if they're not widespread. But either way, to try to come up with some determination for the level of satisfaction with the police department. So.
Any other comments? Tom, you look like you want to say something.
I was thinking. Actually, I think going out into the community areas in smaller groups would be incredibly productive. It's a less intimidating situation, most likely, and I think the larger function did have results. I think it bears doing again, maybe tweaking the format a little bit. But I think more of a combination, a hybrid approach might be the way you guys want to go. Because really, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And you guys can't be effective unless you have all the information possible. And if you're only hearing from one particular group, that means that's what you're going to base your decisions on. And that is not going to make for an effective group, I don't think. So I like what I'm hearing from you guys.
So one thing I think that we can do is reach out to Project Alliance and see if maybe we can get on the agenda for their meeting next month, because that has just about all the agencies.
Oh, wow, that'd be great.
At that meeting.
Yeah, wow. Very good.
So
yeah.
I will, I'll reach out to Lorna and see if we can do that. So any comments from the public? Jonah? You want to-
Jonah Spivak, Communications Coordinator for the town of Bennington. One thing that really resonated with me, both in watching the CPARB listening session and listening to the conversation today, is the comment that I heard a number of you say, which is there's still confusion about in the community, what is the CPARB? And I wonder if a good goal moving forward would be to, in a quick and short way, just sort of let people know what is that elevator speech? What is that simple thing they need to know about the CPARB? And in effect, what it is it is a way for the community to provide direct input on how community policing should look in our town. And figuring out a way to get that message across, I think would be really useful for people. And that also would help drive engagement.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments on the listening session? So I'll get that summarized and we'll get that out and we'll see if we can get on the agenda for Project Alliance, and then maybe we can
That'd be
start to
great.
work up some communications with Jonah as far as getting information out more about what CPARB is. Sound good?
You're great.
Okay, all right. Next on the agenda is the town survey questions. So the town survey is coming up in the fall of 2023. This is done every 2 years. The last survey was done in 2021, and it is posted on the town's website. So we need to come up with a couple of survey questions, 1 or 2, for the 2023 survey. So are there any suggestions, a couple of, it would be nice to get some questions maybe together today and then come back in August to finalize them if we can, or?
Because we don't have the, our guest won't be here in August, so that's not on the agenda. Margay, was it Margay?
I'm not sure who you have. I know
I
Chloe's
think it was
in September.
Margay. Yeah, she had to postpone August.
Oh, okay.
She said it was for her 10th wedding anniversary, but
That was Chloe,
I
yeah.
think that's
That's-
kind of a thin reason, but I mean, you have an anniversary every year, don't you?
Yeah, so town survey questions. Are there any?
I have a suggestion for a
Okay,
question.
for one question?
Yes, for one question. What can the community do to help the police do their job?
So you're looking more for a written response question as opposed to a,
Like a,
Something around-
the 1 to 5 scale, yeah, right, yeah, yes.
how would you do a 1 to 5 on what can the community do to help the police?
I don't know, you'd have to probably parse it out into a number of different questions to try to get that kind of data from.
have 2 questions.
Yeah, I know, right.
So,
Do they all have to be like that? Do they all have to be on a scale to 1 to 5, or can they be open-ended?
Jonah would have been the person to ask.
Oh, he just left.
There is one open-ended question
Yeah.
that BPD has, and they've got, I don't know, 300 and something answers to that.
Right, I saw that.
So,
Yeah, I was working
which is
through
a
that.
possibility.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Anyway,
We can-
and so, I mean, the reason I suggested is, I would be curious, you know, we're kind of always asking people, you know, what do you think of the police, or think of this and that. I'd like to see if we get people's ideas on what they can do to help their police department do its job. They may have some good ideas, I don't know.
Do we know if these questions that were from the 2021 survey will be the same questions on the 2023, or will they all be? I guess my point is, this question 20 was about the police and community policing. Will that question appear again, or will the new survey be all different questions?
So my understanding is that they go and they start with the questions from the last survey,
Okay.
and they may add, subtract,
Okay.
modify. And if we have input on those questions,
Right.
Jonah's open to the input.
Yeah, I guess it might be helpful to know which questions they do plan to have now, and that may help. Either it may already address something that we're thinking about asking, or we may want to add something to that question, I guess, if it's something similar to this one. I don't know. Yeah,
I will
might be.
ask Jonah.
Yeah, okay,
Ask Jonah.
thanks.
But I don't know if they've gotten that far yet. So. Scott, any questions from you? Will? I know you had a list of them.
Yes, I do, but they're not with me. Yep.
Okay. All right, so,
Do you know, can we have the questions multiple choice? Can we ask a question and have like a list of answers, like a circle, where they have to be yes or no, or like?
I think they were like on a scale of 1 to 5
Right.
the last time. I
Like
think-
strongly disagree,
Agree,
disagree,
yeah.
neutral,
Like that.
the Likert scale.
But there were open-ended
Right, obviously.
questions also.
Yeah.
There was one.
One open-ended
There
question.
was one open-ended question. The rest of them were all.
Yes or no,
So it was like 8 questions, 18 through
The open-ended question would only have
20 was, yeah, 20 was the open-ended one.
Okay.
It was, please rate the performance of the Bennington Police Department. Effectiveness, approachable, experienced, professional, helpful, and community-focused.
Yeah, so there are multiple choices.
Well, and like 17, though, was open-ended because they're listing for 3 streets you would like to see improved. So I'm sure those were,
So, yeah.
so there's
yeah.
potential, I guess.
There is, yeah.
Or 14 about improvements to the rec center, so some open-ended stuff.
So I will follow up with Jonah and find out if they have the questions for 2023 for BPD yet.
Yeah.
And then if everyone can at least come with one question for the next meeting, so that we can work on narrowing it down, if there are any other questions other than the one, and Robert, you may end
Do
up
I have
with
to
another
think
one.
of another one, or
No, you
can I
don't have
use the one I did today?
Your one question cap
Yeah,
is.
that's my one question.
No, but actually, if you do have another question, you should mention it.
Sure, yeah,
It's-
if I
I mean,
think- right.
because it might be better than the last.
It might be.
Might be better than mine, it probably will.
I doubt that.
So, okay. So questions or comments on the survey before we go on to the next? Upcoming agenda items. So next month, we will be following up on the town survey questions. We will probably have more follow-up on the listening session. And I'm not sure if we have a guest lined up yet.
No, we did.
I thought you reached out to,
There's no one for August right now,
I
yeah.
thought you had GPICs, Natalie.
I asked her, I offered her August, and she said no, she preferred to come in October, when she was already scheduled.
So
And I
right
didn't
now,
want
we
to
don't
start
have a
calling
guest, but
everyone.
that is subject to change.
Yeah,
Were
right.
we going to do the softer streets next month, or is that just TBD?
Possibly,
Okay.
yeah, possibly. Softer strains. Other than that, any other agenda items from anyone? Announcements, National Night Out
Right.
is August 1st from 5 to 7 at Willow Park. And our next meeting is August 17th in this
Wow.
room at 6 PM.
Wow, great.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Opposed, abstained, so passed. Thank you very much. Have a good night.